Okay, I want to welcome you to my basement laboratory where we're going to be doing the first online lab. And we have a multimeter here, and I have two capacitors, a black one. I've taken it with alligator clips and connected it to a red and a black lead. And then I got a second capacitor, a blue one, alligator clips, red and a black lead once again. And our first task is going to be to figure out what the capacitance of these two are. I, quite frankly, simply desoldered them from an old modem that was attached to a computer piece of hardware I had from a long time ago. And here's the black capacitor. Let's designate the black capacitor, for lack of argument, to be C1. And you can look on my multimeter. I've got it set up to where there's a little capacitor symbol and 1.20 bouncing around between 1 and 2, and the units are nanofarads. And of course, that's the black capacitor. Let's disconnect it for just a second. Let me get the glare off the screen for you. And now we'll take the blue capacitor, which will designate capacitor 2. Do the same thing. Hook up its two leads to the multimeter. And what I notice for the blue capacitor, let's call it C2, capacitance 0.136 nanofarads. Okay, well, hopefully you realized as I was taking that data that is for part A. That was the data for step 1. What are the capacitances of the individual capacitors? And so now I'm going to move on to step 2, which says to connect the two capacitors in series. And while you were writing those numbers down, I think I did that. There is the black capacitor with its red lead. The black lead coming out of it, I connected to the red lead of the blue capacitor. And that guy is sitting over there ready to be connected to the multimeter. So all I should have to do is connect my two leads and wait for the capacitors to steady out. And what I notice, 0.133 nanofarads is the result that I measure when I connect capacitors C1 and C2, the black and the blue, in series. And while you were writing down your observations for step A2, the two capacitors in series, I went ahead and rearranged the two capacitors to place them in parallel. If you notice, I connected the two sides together with the black leads together, and I connected the two red sides of the capacitor together. And so all I should have to do to make the measurement is connect the red sides to the multimeter, give it a second, and the answer for the two capacitors in parallel is 1.317 nanofarads. And hopefully you've figured out that for these two configurations, you should do a mathematical calculation to predict what the parallel and series combination should have been. We've just made the measurements, and you want to compare those and calculate the percent differences. And that should wrap up part A.